Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're doing another figure review, well, series of figures. Today I thought it'd be a pretty fun idea to go back a little bit in time to about 2019, 2020, to when the first batch of Playmates, Godzilla, and King Kong action figures, well, not King Kong, but just Monster vs. Toho style Godzilla stuff, was rolling around. This was basically Playmates' first attack at the modern Godzilla and Kong license, and as you can see, we have some figures. From left to right, we have Shin Godzilla, the original, SpaceGodzilla, Destoroyah, Kong Skull Island, the 6-inch version, Gigan 2004, the large-scale 11-inch Kong, and the large-scale 11-inch Godzilla 2004. All of these were the Wave 1 Godzilla Kong figures from Playmates. And also, if you're wondering why the other Godzilla ones aren't here, the Bandai re-releases, those are technically of Bandai. Well, they are of Bandai. And they were only released here just to fill in some gaps for Walmart because they were still under the contract at the time. So, these were their figures. And, like, specifically, theirs, not just stealing the mold, but, or, well, stealing. All of these guys were produced by them. So, let's go ahead and go one by one through the various figures that were released during Wave 1. So first, we're going to go over the Lone Wolf. What I mean by Lone Wolf is the Kong is kind of the only one of its kind. It's the only Kong they've made in the line as far as Toho series is concerned, and it's not directly even from Toho, it's from Legendary and WB. But with that being said, this is the 6-inch Kong Skull Island figure. I'm going to be a bit more brief than usual because I just did a video about this guy like not that long ago, so re-angling my camera here. So let's go ahead and get started. So, what do we got? The head is molded pretty well. Looks exactly like the film with like the kind of human, definitely mammal-like shaped head. And has a very gray spray across the entirety of the face to give it a bit more of that kind of color and detail. The eyes are painted alright. This eye is kind of off to one side a little bit. This eye is a bit more off to the other. And mine's got a tiny little paint nick. It's kind of hard to see. So you can kind of see it here. It's like on the tip of my fingernail. It's like right there. But the facial expression is kind of blank. Kong's just in a kind of a neutral position, kind of a neutral stance. Him kind of smirking a little bit like, interesting. And the overall mold, again, it's kind of really good because he's actually got sculpted in nostrils. I know that's kind of a weird thing to point out, but the nostrils and the ears are probably the most well sculpted thing on a Playmates figure I've seen in a very, very long time, if not ever. Because, like, that actually kind of goes in, like a nostril. Honestly, if this guy had internal organs, I would not be surprised. But going on down to the shoulders, well, more like the chest, we have some, like, the orange, the kind of, like, darker shading here towards the breast, and then we can kind of go up here to where I think that's just the shadow. No, that's not the shadow. There's like actually some more highlights there, and it has more like that gray spray. So they definitely added some like black highlights here, like this kind of cut here, and then they kind of sprayed the rest in with like gray. And of course we have like the slashes that are not sculpted in, but they are painted pretty good. Like that's actually kind of really good as far as like the paint application is concerned. Mine's got like a black, like a bit of black schmutz all over it. I don't know where that's from. That could just be like from when they were spraying in the factory, and then maybe like some little bit of stuff gone onto the chest, but that's all right. Got a little nice 6 or maybe that's an 8-pack. Sides of the arms, they look pretty well done. They're very fuzzy, which I do like, because, like, Kong is a furry little boy. Furry little, as in, like, I don't know, 30 meters tall. Over 100 feet. But you got some, like, that nice crisp detail, the fur. Then going down to the hands, where there's obviously a cut, which I think the base figure was the Leonard figure. I could be wrong about that. that, or it was originally a giant, but then this guy has like, I don't know, the wrist cut kind of gives the impression that this was the Leonard. But as you can kind of see, the hand is kind of sprayed in like a very jet black type color, which I'm not gonna like say it's the wrong color because it's been a little bit since I last seen Kong Skull Island. But at the same time, I think I would have liked to see like a little bit of a lighter color. This hand's got the clenched fisting, boom, boom, boom. So as you can kind of see, he's kind of like rock paper scissors. So maybe he's challenging Godzilla to a rock paper scissors game. So who knows? Maybe that's someone's AU. Going on down to the legs, the details are definitely a bit more mellow, and as well as on the back, it's actually not that mellow. It's actually quite detailed. Again, it's all hard plastic, which is a bit of a bummer to some, but for me, it's not really. It's got all the fancy detail. Very thick monkey booty, like very, very thick. But as you can see, the details are a bit more on the more mellow side when it comes to like the leg pieces. They're not too detailed. They're a bit on the more soft side. And as you can see for the feet, they have quite some detail here for the feet, like little toes and such. 5 toes in all. But they are sprayed in like that kind of jet black spray, as you can see. So again, not much in the way of paint variety, but it definitely gets the job done. Next up is articulation. For articulation, we have a hinge here at the head. Yes, it's a hinge, not a ball joint. I popped the head off once. So you can go up about that far, down about that far. Let me just redo it for you. And you can go side to side. Pretty much a full 360 with the head, which is good. Shoulders can pretty much go all the way around. Do be careful of the fact that it grinds up. Even though there is a seam line there in the sculpt, there's not actually any articulation there. The legs can actually kick up, but they stop right here. And they can go back a little bit, but they get stopped right here. And we have feet swivels. So Kong is able to kind of get some mild feet movement, which is nice to see. So nothing in the way of like, oh, this is awful posability. It's actually got some merit to it. And even though its head articulation is probably the best one of like any of the classic Toho series figures, it's still very well done. And honestly, I've seen way worse. So overall, Kong himself, the 6-inch variety, not too bad. Also, just worth noting is that there's a reissue, because I covered that in my also latest video about this guy. I can actually grab him off the shelf. So, just kind of, again, I'm not directly comparing, but he literally has basically all the same attributes, articulation and sculpt-wise, but paint things, they changed it a little differently for this reissue. They brought in more darker kind of color to him, as far as like the base color is concerned, and they fixed up the build quality a little bit, which is also nice to see, because like every seam line on this guy is like starting to split apart. But not on this guy. At least not on my copy. So that's good to see. What's also really good to see is the paint difference as well, which in itself is kind of a lighter gray. And I think I would have liked to see this gray on that brown, if that makes any sense. Like, that would have been the picture perfect one. Which I think that's actually what the Ferocious Kong did for the Monsterverse line. So, essentially speaking, nothing has changed from this. Mine's got a bit more wonky of an eye placement. But again, all is good with this one. Going from Kong to Godzilla, we have Godzilla himself, the 2016 version from the film Shin Godzilla. And oh boy, is this guy a doozy, because he was essentially discontinued the moment he was released. What I mean by this is, you can obviously see how atrocious this thing is, really. But because of his insane rush job, they actually discontinued him for a while and replaced him with a much neater Shin Godzilla, which I'll just grab out for a brief comparison. We won't be talking about him for majority of it, but you can definitely see he just looks a lot more tidied up than this one does, but this is about him. Never thought I'd have to talk about this guy again, but whatever. So, for the mold, he uses the NECA Shin Godzilla mold that I've already done a figure comparison of with, but as you can see, they kind of like simplified it and put him in a weird posture with his head not going straight up, but going straight ahead with the head elongated. And as a result, it looks more like a Muppet. It almost looks like a hand is supposed to fit in there, and then it goes ma 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 ma. That's almost like what it is. The eye paint is one singular white circle with a black dot in the middle, which I'm pretty sure they just took the Kong Skull Island route, and that black is literally just part of the figure plastic. And the teeth paint, the oatmeal for teeth is still here. And we have a kind of like a red underside for the tongue, because it's supposed to be painted like a tongue. There's not a tongue in there, but there's... Come on, that's what Playmates was trying to do. But the red itself is alright. It's nothing too bad. Of course, the teeth are painted abysmally. Like, that is... that is atrocious. The spines are actually really well molded, even though, again, they are of the NECA mold. And they are pretty flexible. Mine still kind of got that issue. I never bothered to glue it, just because I like keeping it this way, kind of. And we have, like, the outer row of red fins. The fins themselves are not painted, but the outer row of fins are. So they kind of go down to where they meet the tail, and that's basically all the paint you get. All that is entirely blacked out. However, we do get some paint on the, kind of like some mop paint on the ribs, which it kind of goes moving the shoulder up. We kind of have like 2 streaks here, 2 streaks right there, 2 spots there, 1, 2, 3 right there. And that's like about it. They didn't paint the whole section. They didn't add any sort of spray, which I get it. It's a rushed figure, but come on, they could have at least added a spray. The claw paint, it's done all right. It's nothing like too bad. That's actually probably the neatest part about the figure, is probably the claw paint, because again, there's really nothing to screw up. You're just literally dipping it in gray paint. For the shins, like, of course, going all, again, a little bit over the detail, we have, like, some more, like, scaly type webby detail. I'm not going to go over in-depth again, because I've taken a look at this figure in the NECA Shin Godzilla, like, who knows how many times. We have, like, some sort of, like, rose-looking pattern. This almost looks like a rose, or an anus. We also have, like, some red spray, like, it's a circular splotch of it, right on the leg here, on the thigh, and it's like that on both sides, except here it's a bit more elongated on this side, so it looks alright. And also, of course, we got like the big compact thighs, and then we kind of go on down more that really crisp detail. Of all the Godzilla figures here, this has to be at least the most well detailed, but definitely the worst execution of the paint. Like, the foot has the classic 4-toed foot that the next Shin Godzilla has, no extra toes, but does have the claw painted. Mine's got an extra little drippage right there, but that's alright. Nothing on the underside of it, just more like the blank copyright, like copyright 2020 and such. Made in China. And we do have more, again, of that paint on this foot, and then kind of going on down to the tail, where it's obvious that they definitely took the NECA mold. We have some, like, red paint, which looks good enough. Like, if they continued it for the rest of the tail and actually added the red here, that would look beautiful. But no, it's only on these 3 slits and these 3 slits back here. And there's an entire section here that doesn't have any of it. Then it comes back at this one where they got, like, 4 more. And then this section's completely missing it. And then they go back to painting it. But they kind of painted it a little too soon. And then it kind of got to, like, the tip of the tail where they kind of started painting it again. And it's a bit on the more side as far as, like, the paint is. Well, actually, I take that back about the claws. This is actually the most really well painted. I like this paint. I like this. I genuinely do. Is it the best? No. Not by a long shot. But for what it is, it was actually pretty good. And, like, just talking overall, it's obviously clear that this guy was never meant to exist. Like, the whole point was just because GVK got delayed, so they had to make some figures. So the fact that we even got, like, any classic figures is kind of amazing, but at the same time, that's kind of what it is. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation, since there's really not much to talk about in the way of sculpt and paint anymore, because we kind of already went over it several times. Head is on a swivel at the base of the neck, so you can move a full 360, so thankfully there is no, like, hindrance there. Which is why they give this guy head posability, but not the 21 Godzillas? I have no idea. Shoulders can go about, like, I don't want to, like, push it too much because it could start grinding up over time, but you can get a fair amount of range. This one can kind of go up. This one, they kind of go, like, in odd positions, so not really, like, any use for the arm posability. Nothing at the waist, but we do have some leg articulation. This leg can kick forward about that far, backwards about that far, and the foot can swivel. This one, this leg, can go forwards about that far, and backwards about that far. So literally only this amount of range. That is kind of pathetic. But we do have some leg articulation. And we have 2 ball joints here. This one's acts more as a swivel. And if you split this, like, if you try to turn it, it'll actually start splitting the plastic. And just shows how bad of quality it is. But this ball joint's actually pretty nice. Like, this actually has some mild play to it, which I'm still pleasantly shocked about even to this day, that it functions the way that the original NECA did. I genuinely wonder if they, like, they actually, like, took the piece off and molded it this way. Like, it's cut the exact same way. Maybe they did. But overall, definitely, again, even it's the only Godzilla 6-inch figure that was released during this wave. But for what it was, it's definitely... Well, okay, I should probably clarify. There's only Godzilla, not SpaceGodzilla, Godzilla, that they released during the first wave. Because, like, it amazes me that this guy was so rushed, but actually has some actual good qualities. Like, for example, it has a good sculpt. And the paint, where there is paint, like, right here, it's actually kind of nice. Like, the tip of the tail is actually pretty nice, but everything else is no. It's an overall bad figure, but it's like a so bad it's good appeal. Because you look at this face, you're like, oh man, what happened to this? Like, it's kind of like that. So, that's my personal thoughts on the Shin Godzilla. So next up, we're going to be reviewing the SpaceGodzilla figure, which this one's kind of a novelty because it uses the Bandai mold of the, I think it was the MMS, or was like an early creations, but it's not a re-release. It uses the old mold, but it also retools it, which I find interesting. But alas, let's go over the sculpt and paint. The sculpt is actually, again, a pretty decently made sculpt. It's definitely old, but it's still pretty good. But the paint is quite iffy. The crown paint is pretty terrible. Like, it's only on one side. And, like, you got, like, this whole black area where it's not even painted. Plus, you got a few more black spines up here. The eyes. Oh, boy, the eyes. These are, like, as derpy as they get. Like, tiny little orange eyes we have here. At least they're looking in somewhat of the same direction. And the tongue paint is actually done decently well. Like, that's actually kind of good. But the teeth, oh man. It looks like he has straight up dentures, like straight up white strips of paint. Like, that's essentially what this guy has. But we do have some decently applied paint for the little tusks at the sides, like little side teeth for SpaceGodzilla. So that's good. Going on down, we have the crystals here, which have like a nice white to purple gradient. This I like. That's actually really nice. And we have some metallic red for the underbelly, and kind of starts from the neck all the way to where it meets the crotch, which that's actually really well done. I like how metallic and smooth that feels. The claws are painted in a mild, kind of like white yogurty spray, and it's a bit more thicker on this hand than it is this one, as you can kind of see. But of course, it does look fine. Nice way to like highlight the details for what details are there. And same thing with the claws; they're fine painted. Well, on the feet at least, they're decently painted. I would have liked some paint on the ankles, especially in like a potential reissue for this guy. But I mean, this was fine as it was. For the spines, pure white. This entire piece is literally just white rubber. I don't think it's vinyl. Could be vinyl. But that's essentially what this figure is made of. Just hard plastics and vinyl. That's kind of like what the main theme of these figures are anyway. But the mold, again, it's still really good. And it's actually pretty movie accurate. They also got rid of that ugly gap, which was on the original. So if there's one thing I have to commend Playmates for, it's that they fixed one of the worst problems on one of the older Godzilla figures. And that I do appreciate. You also have some more of that detail. I mean, you can kind of see like where the skin would be, and I kind of wish there would have been some more like black paint kind of like running down, but then again, it'd probably look goopy. Something like this, because this is actually still a white strip. I can actually pull it out a little bit, and you can kind of see that it is in fact just a big white strip painted with the same kind of colored plastic, just color matching. But as you can see, it's got a quite a bit of the spines here, like from here to here, and they are painted on the outer rows of films, but that's kind of like where they stop. And then here, it's just painted white for the crystal at the tip of the tail. And as you can kind of see, that's kind of it when it comes to the color. So he definitely has like the most color variety of the original series, but definitely not the best in terms of execution. Which again, I understand the paint job thing, like the whole rush job, whatever. I mean, got to be a bit fair to where these figures were standing. It's again, that's the whole reason why they exist, because you can't really exactly release figures at a certain time when the movie is not even out. So, for articulation, we have a swivel here at the head, which actually kind of focusing in a little bit more. There you go. It can go a full 360. It has a little bit of like a clicking noise, which is not a ratchet. It's just the clickiness. The biceps are some of the most useless figure joints in history. Like, this is it. This is the range. I don't even know like where the articulating is cut. Like, I can kind of get to move up like that, but this is it. This arm, not so much either. This is it. Like, yay, hours of fun, am I right? For the legs, this leg can kick up about this far up, can go backwards about that far, and I think this is from the original, but like there's a little gap there, so it's kind of similar to that of the NECA 94 Godzilla vs. SpaceGodzilla, coincidentally the same film. And you can also rotate 360 at the foot. This leg can go up about that far, backwards about that far, and this foot can also swivel all the way around. And this tail can pretty much go all the way around as well. No, there's nothing here, but this is where you like apply the figure, the tail socket. So overall for SpaceGodzilla, it's not bad actually. Like, it's definitely, I would say, second worst if we're talking about quality, but it's definitely got some charm to it. Next up, we're going to go over Gigan. And as you can see, this guy, honestly, this one's probably the best looking of the bunch. Like, as far as the movie accuracy goes, this is probably the best one because, well, let's go over the sculpt. The sculpt is, I think, borrowed from one of the Bandai vinyls as well. I could be wrong about that, but as you can see, the head is rocking with detail. We got like the folds and the ridges on the neck part of the like Gigan, because he is kind of like hybrid a bit. We have like the tiny little red dot, which I wasn't expecting them to paint, but they did. The red visor, which is practically painted pretty much flawlessly. The like top part of Gigan right here. We got like little side parts of Gigan, little like not the beak itself, but like the little pincers almost. And then we have like a metallic blue spray on the front of it, like right here. And then we kind of like, it's essentially a black base with blue highlights, which is exactly how the suit is. And we have like this buzz saw, which doesn't move, but is still decently spiny. The claws are pretty well done. This is like before he gets the buzz saws, so not the buzz saws themselves. The elbow spikes are done pretty well, and we get some more like the folding and like more spines down here, like the kneecap spine, the shin spine, and the ankle spine. Kind of like if he knees you in the groin with this thing, or decides to come from behind and kick you, you're done. You're not coming back from that. But we got more like the detail, almost like the vein pipework type stuff. Almost looks like the inside of Kiryu, doesn't it? But we got more of like the spine sharp stuff. Don't worry, we'll get to the frills. And we have like all these individual spines that are not like sculpted, but they're like embridged together. But it's fine, gets the job done. We have like the gray, then we have like the black, and then we get to like the pincer tail where it's like pure sharp and madness over here. And it looks great. It's made of like a squishy vinyl type material. Stop going out of focus. There we go. And obviously it's got like the four on them. And we got the various frills back here, which are made of a soft rubbery vinyl. And we have like the blue metallic lining that goes here on the top three. And it looks pretty well done. And of course the base red, pretty well done as well. But there's no paint on like the frills, like the veins part of them, which is a bit of a bummer. But again, considering the price point and considering how these guys were made, this guy actually turned out pretty well. So who knows how well Playmates would have cooked if they had more time. But for articulation, we have mild head rotation. It's kind of like, why would they feature a joint like this? I have no idea. Maybe the future ones have like a better head joint. I doubt it. The arm moves up about that far, backwards about that far. This one can go upwards about that far, backwards about that far. Can't really get it more than that. The legs can kick up about that far, backwards about that far. No foot swivel, oddly enough, but this one can go pretty much close to 360, like about that far forward and about this far back. I don't want to push it any more than it does. And we have a mild tail rotation right here. Nothing here at the base like SpaceGodzilla. So overall, Gigan is probably the best in terms of sheer quality and movie accuracy. Next up is the last of the 6-inch Godzilla and Kong figures. It's Destoroyah. And now, here's the thing about Destoroyah. Destoroyah is kind of mixed in a lot of regards. Because it not only borrows the mold from, again, some old Bandai vinyls, but it also does things that those vinyls never did. What are they? Well, let's start. The sculpt and paint. Pretty snazzy, if I do say so myself. The overall mold of the head is actually pretty close to accurate. Like, it is really good. The horn itself, mine's a tiny bit scuffed up. I have another one that's not, but mine is, whatever. But it's actually painted pretty decently, just being a big dab of yellow paint, not really much in the way of it. Also, that is a big horn, I just realized. The eyes are painted pretty basic yellow. At least they look better than the original Monster Arts one. We have like some gray lining for the teeth and some like gray dabbles for the extra like pincers. I don't know what it is with Heisei Kaiju and giving them like pincers and all that. But alas, we got some like red color variation because we have like a dark base and we have like the lighter, almost like a spray on the outside. And it looks really good. We have some like more of the detail over here. Coming on down to the stomach region, well, of course we have like these horns, which aren't painted. These like spikes on the shoulders. But we have this little area that's like painted a green, orange type color. I don't know why I said green, I'm an idiot. Well, he does puke green blood, so not to mention he shoots a green beam out of this, so I'll give it that. because that's in the deleted scene, it opens up. Although I think it opens up in some Godzilla media, whatever. So we have spray, like little crab pincers on the hands. We have like 3 prong fingers. Moving on down, we have some sprays for the knee caps, little like knee shin, knee spikes. And then here we have the 3 toed feet, which are also sprayed. Pretty well, actually. It's like a little mild spray, a little dulled down, but it's nothing too bad. For the wings here, the tiny little wings are not painted, unfortunately, but they are molded pretty well, but are also pretty flexible. Same with the larger wings, which, speaking of the larger wings, we kind of have like the same spray that these sides of the head crown does, and it goes on to this entire side and kind of gives it more color variation. When we go to the back, though, it kind of loses all of that, but the mold is still there. And we do have a bit of paint, like a little bit of a mild spray going on down, kind of lining everything the way it should be, all the way down towards the midsection of the tail where you plug it in. And then from there, it's just the basic kind of maroon type plastic color that they use, except it's a lot more soft plastic here. And of course, we have the little pincer at the end. So, and also underneath, there's not really anything. It's just more copyright info and stuff. But overall, it's quite solid in the sculpted paint department. Not too over the top, but also not the worst. But for articulation, we have a head swivel, bicep swivels, so we can kind of rotate those. Legs can go, well, this leg can go kick about that far back, this far forward. And I don't really like how it's cut, because like this just looks unfinished. See how that's like all squared off? But we do have some nice feet swivels, so that's nice. This one likes to move a bit more freely, but not by much. But this one can kick forward about this far, and backwards about that far. So you can kind of get a little bit back and forth. For the wings. These big wings are on ball joints, so you can actually kind of like, not only go up and down with them, like almost, again, like a ball joint, but you can also swivel, and it's like a very clean cut swivel, so you can go all the way around, you can glide it. Like, there's basically no resistance there, and you don't have to worry about scuffed paint, at least on the back side of it, because it's not painted at all. Same with on this wing. Sorry for bumping in the camera. These wings are not on ball joints, but basic rotation, so they can kind of come in, go out. They have a little bit of range, nothing too crazy. And the tail here can rotate here, go do a full 360, and this part can also do a full 360. So, again, pretty well done. Nothing like over the top. So, as far as like the Destoroyah is concerned, aligning everything back into place because it is kind of a finicky little figure, it's pretty good. Like, you can go way worse than this. Going from small scale to large scale, we have the 11-inch giant Kong, who is 11 inches tall. I also just want to say that yes, there is a reissue that has like a slightly different paint job. However, I did not get that one, and I don't really desire to, because I already have this one, and this one's already good as it is. So let's go ahead and go over this. So first up, the head. It's molded pretty well. I like the overall detail that it takes, and it's not like the 6-inch version scaled up. It actually features a different head sculpt, with it being much more pissed off, and it has an open mouth, with some extra details to be found within. And of course, we're going to give you a little bit of an in shot here. Pun intended fully. So we have like some of the gum paint, pretty well detailed, like shockingly. Tongue's painted pretty well. The teeth are sculpted pretty well. Teeth are also just one solid color. On the reissue, they actually painted the gums, which I think was a massive improvement, because this just looks kind of weird. Mine's got a little bit of a neck, but that's okay. One gripe I do have with the teeth is that they kind of like face forward, and almost look like all the teeth up in the front row is like going that way. But, I mean, from head on, it's fine. Kong's head looks pretty well. He's got better eye paint than his 6-inch counterpart, and the gray spray's done a little bit over, because it kind of goes up above the eyebrows up into his hair. So it almost looks like he has, well, gray hair. But again, the gray spray looks nice, and we got some nice little orange eyes with black pupils, so that looks pretty fine and dandy. ears are molded pretty well. The nostrils are not sculpted the way the 6-inch version was, because they go like in deep. This one's just kind of more shout out. But going on down to the little chest, not little chest, it's actually quite big. We have the gray spray. No, it's the black spray. I'm so off my game today. But you can kind of see how the black spray is all across the chest, almost like a plus sign, and it goes down here and right across the breasts. And of course, we have the 3 slashes. Mine's got a little bit of a brown nick, probably again some Axis paint or something, paint rub, whatever. Come to think of it, I don't think there's any brown paint on this thing. All the brown is just plastic. So what is that from? Probably something from the factory. I have no idea. But I will say the scarring looks a little less clean, because if I bring in the original 6-inch version, then you can kind of see, you can kind of get behind the fact that these are more like scars with the way that they're painted versus these ones where it almost just looks like someone was running out of the paint and they just put it on there because it's a bit faded, but whatever. But the gray looks nice anyway. The hands are definitely a lot more black this go around, because like the entire thing is chocked of that black stuff, because like it almost looks like he took the ink sac and he clenched in his fist. That looks awesome, honestly, from this angle. More like the kind of fur pattern, it again just kind of looks like a larger version of the 6-inch one, which I think the body essentially is, but more of that fur pattern across the body. This hand, slightly gripping open, but more or less the same kind of like black coloring, so nothing to really write home about. Kind of going on down to the legs, which we have a bit more of the detail kind of going down. And then we have the infamous feet, black toes, and underside continuing that black spray. And yes, there is screw holes. However, because I grew up with a lot of toys that had screw holes, they don't bug me all that much. So what do we got for articulation? We have a swivel. There's no hinge this time, unfortunately, so it's just a head swivel. Arm swivel goes 360. Wrist swivel, so finally we get our wrist swivel. Nothing at the waist, but we do have a 360 rotating leg joint, which goes all the way around pretty well on both sides. And tight but 360 spinning feet swivels. So overall, it looks fine. It's honestly pretty good. And honestly, it serves as a Kong Skull Island larger version. And last but certainly not least, we have my personal favorite, the Godzilla 2004. And before I actually talk about this figure, look at this. Look at how creepy that looks. That is awesome. So, first and foremost, this is a remold slash retool of the 12-inch tall Bandai figure that released a few years before this guy did. As in before, I mean like 2000s. But as you can see, for the head sculpt, it looks a lot like the Final Wars film. The eyes are orange with blue pupils as opposed to black. Yeah, they are blue. It almost looks like they just took a pen and then just like let the ink kind of set in. The detail on the head is actually really well done with all the scaling and stuff. And like looking at the teeth, which are individually sculpted, they look really snazzy too. And I do like how the tongue is also painted, being a lot more like individually, as opposed to like it just being flat to the mouth. Neck detail looks pretty good. You have a little bit of a hunch there. Got like a tiny bit of like a color difference, but it's nothing like too bad. For the chest, you got more like the circular detail. The claws are painted pretty well. Mine's got a few nicks, but it's alright. The limbs are made of a bit more of a softer, well, the hands are made of more of a softer plastic than the hard body, but they are detailed pretty well. They continue like the scales and stuff going on down. And we got like the claws on this one, which are a bit better as far as like the scuffing is concerned. Not much color variety on this guy, being mostly just the same gray with the basic kind of like folds in the skin type color, especially like of the suit. So it looks fine as it is. But we do have some more claw paint here at the toes, which are individually painted. So the application itself isn't like, it's pretty much as best as it can get. They didn't seal it with anything, which I kind of find a little odd, but then again, rush job kind of thing. But I think what really steals the show for me are the dorsal plates, which are individually sculpted and are also painted in a way where it's almost like the original Bandai one, where they sprayed it and then they like took a whole practically air, like an air spray. I think that's the correct term. And then they sprayed it all the way down and giving it like a glow effect, which I find absolutely beautiful. Even going down to the tip, which thankfully is not like the band. Wait, did the Bandai original did that? I actually can't remember. I have it up on my shelf. I can't see it from here. But the dorsal plates are really well molded, kind of like the gummy plastic that it's kind of known for. But I mean, overall, it's pretty simplistic as far as like the paint job, but the sculpt is really well done. For articulation, we have a head swivel, so we can swivel all the way around, although my head joint is a bit tight. We have bicep swivels here at the, biceps, so you can swivel a fair amount there. Legs can go pretty much a full 360, which I think that this is the only Toho series original Wave 1 figure not to have like any sort of restrictions when it comes to the leg swivels. Because like both legs, you can theoretically at least put them at a 360. So I don't see why they restrict these ones but not the others. But feet swivels we also have quite well. And right here we have a tail swivel. Nothing here at the base, but here we do where we plug it in. And here where we have like a midsection towards the mid end of the tail. So as far as posability goes, he's definitely the most articulated in that of range. But at the same time, I find it weird how they don't like lock in everything, lock in the legs or like blockade them, but they do with the others. Like that is so weird. This is the only figure in the entire line to do that. Of Wave 1, sorry. Of Wave 1, I should probably clarify. So with the entire wave now fully reviewed, we have officially come to the end of the video. My overall thoughts, these figures, even though that they are rushed, some are more rushed than others, it's obviously clear that Playmates had a pretty rough start with their Godzilla and Kong lines. I really feel like these figures, for what they are not bad. Bad quality, like some part figures, like these two, yeah, technically speaking, they're atrocious. But other figures are actually pretty good. Like, really, if I was to give, like, my own perspective, say if we were to ignore that whole situation with Walmart and GVK getting delayed, I would honestly go ahead and say that Gigan, Kong, mostly Destoroyah, Giant Kong, and Giant Godzilla 2004 would be considered great figures because for the price point, they do exactly what they're meant to do, and they do it well. Shin Godzilla definitely does not do that thing well, and SpaceGodzilla is a bit right there, but not as bad as Shin got it. But with that being said, I still think like these two have the so bad it's good charm, because you look at these two and you just can't help but laugh. Like, if a figure can make you laugh, that's good enough for me, personally. But as a whole line, it's got quite a bit of variety. It's got two Kongs, separate sculpts, head sculpt at least. It's got a Destoroyah, which I think is one of the first Destoroyahs on American toy shelves in literal years prior to this guy's release. Gigan 2004 actually getting a proper worldwide figure release in again years. SpaceGodzilla as well, even if it's not the best SpaceGodzilla. Shin Godzilla, we have the Necker version on shelves as well. This guy was still up, so take it or leave it as you will. But I did find it weird how they did a 2004 Godzilla when there was not only the other one, but there was Shin Godzilla. So why they made a small Kong 2017 and a big Kong 2017, but a big Godzilla 2004 and a big Godzilla small Godzilla 2016, that's a bit iffy to me. Like, you'd think they'd do a large-scale Shin Godzilla. Oh, no. Actually, no. Shoot down an idea. A large-scale version of this? No. That would have been bit the bullet too hard. But, hey, we got a small 2004 anyway. Pulling them off the shelf just for showcase here. And as you can see right there. But as an overall line, it's really fun to look at where Playmates start, and sadly didn't go the extra mile because they stopped making Toho series stuff. Yeah, Baragon was unfortunately the last one, so unfortunately that's all that there was. But hey, when I eventually go around to collecting the second wave, which I am in the process of, I'll be sure to review those. With that being said, that's all I really have for this video. I like what we have. It took me a few years to actually collect the whole line, but we're here finally. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys like, definitely subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, everyone.